against my enemies, yeah. You see, you wanted to save you, and then learn how to raise you. But I forget you're from the wilderness.
What is up, everyone? I am Rob.
I am Eamon.
Damn son, it's Monster Fuzz back to the Loch of the Ness.
Yeah, locked into the lock. If you
we're dialed in.
We're dialed in.
We're
laser focused.
We're going through all of the evidence, all of the sightings. We're finding out all about this creature. All the while, Lemon, we'll be in. Will we be in there now? Right now? No, we'll be going.
This is coming out.
No, we're going.
No, we're going. So when episode 3 comes out, we will be in
we'll
Scotland.
be there, yeah. So
on the moors of Scotland.
So yeah, folks, getting closer now. Again, this is the last time you'll hear it. Actually, no, I want to hear it on Mini Fuzz as well. But we will be at Loch Ness and Ben Nevis 15th, 16th. See you there, be square. You know the crack. If you want to take part, join the Discord. How do you get the Discord? I hear you ask. Message me on Instagram or monsterfuzzpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll get cracking. Looking forward to seeing everyone on the mountain.
Do you have a thing with Ben Nevis where it's like it's Ben Nevis, but I like Benjamin Nevis, and whenever I say it or think about it, and I've nearly called him Ben Nevin a few times, and then that reminds me of Catherine Nevin, the Black Widow.
Oh yeah.
From the what was it the Bee Inn or whatever it was on the way. I can't remember the name of it. The Beehive Inn, yeah. And there's just a little short digression. Do you think of Ben Nevis as a person?
Yeah.
Like the Japanese call
Well, there's
Mount
Glenn
Fuji.
Nevis as well. So
Jesus, Glenn Nevis.
Glenn is his
Nevis.
brother.
Ben and Glenn, Flower Pot Men. Do you know that like for Mount Fuji, the Japanese call it Fuji-san, which is basically like Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, Mr. Ben.
That's pretty fucking
Mr. Ben.
Mr. Ben.
No, we're getting it dialed in.
We're climbing Mr. Ben.
What I do know about that mountain is it's been a pain in my ballocks since
No.
I climbed Snowdon, because I always knew that there was a mountain taller in the UK, and that was Ben Nevis. So I was like, one day.
It's
I
like
will
I'm
get
already at sea level.
Yeah.
I'm tall
I will
as
get
fuck.
you.
Imagine if I was on the highest mountain.
That's a good point as well.
6'5", still alive.
Yeah.
Do you find that you get like pins and needles in your extremities sometimes if you're say if you're lying down holding up a phone, and it's because we're so tall
Blood flow.
that our heart is like, I don't have enough energy to keep you alive.
My feet are the main one, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I get it a lot.
We'll have it now with 2 fucking bloody clubs that are hiking Ben Nevis.
Oh.
2 hobbled feet.
But
It'll be like them Chinese fucking, what's the ones, is it the geishas, the Japanese, where they put
they bind the feet.
Yeah.
No, I think that was the Chinese
the
thing. I'm
Chinese,
sure the
wasn't it?
Japanese probably did it.
Yeah, where they had like
They're all that.
fucking circular feet.
Yeah, you had a size 3 foot like your whole life.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like they're like, this is beautiful. I can imagine just unwrapping that and being like,
Yeah, hobbled
lady.
Bunion laden feet. So yeah, folks, we hope to see you there. Look, again, this was going to be a 2-parter, but it turns out it's going to be a 3-parter because there was a lot more really, like there's a lot of modern sightings that we wanted to get through here in this episode. And then in the 3rd part, what we'll do is we'll talk about the least likely explanations, the most likely explanations, some fun explanations, and we'll have been no, we won't have been in the lock at the time of recording, but we will have a bit more perspective. So it's a fun little journey doing these episodes. Hope you enjoyed part 1. We would like to remind everyone that the podcast is made possible by our patrons. So if you want to head on over there onto Patreon, you will find a bunch of cool stuff as well, like exclusive content, access to our Discord, all of that jazz.
And we'll also have lots of new content when we're in
Scotland
as well, so lots of stuff there.
That's the other thing, is that we will have, it's actually possible that we will record a full episode in the B&B there too. So we will actually bring the camera and all that, so we might actually do an episode there for the crack.
That'd be fun.
So there'll be a bunch of exclusive Patreon content over there for that week as well. We'll do some live I say live pods. We'll do pods every evening.
Yeah. Our little diaries.
Yeah. Our diaries to let people know how it's going and all that stuff. So if you're missing out and you can't be there, it's a decent little way to experience the whole thing and get to grips with what's going on. And if they've seen the Loch Ness Monster, maybe they've seen Mothman. Where should they send in their story?
Yeah, Mothman, the Loch Ness Monster, and nothing else.
just
won't accept anything else. Any spooky stories that you do have, send them to monsterfuzzpodcast@gmail.com. That's not monsterfuzz@gmail.com.
No.
That poor lad's getting
Wrecked.
he doesn't know what's going on with his old inbox.
Tyrannosaurus Shreked. So, a little bit of an intro here. In the last episode, we explored the early folklore mythology. Today's episode, we're going to look at modern sightings and accounts that cemented the Loch Ness Monster as a mainstay in the cryptid community. And we will give our opinions on what we think are hoaxes, what we think is maybe a bit more real. As it turns out, spoiler alert, a lot of these are fairly obvious hoax. Eamon, in last episode, you mentioned the first encounter that you had heard of, which involved a motorbike.
Yeah.
I think this is it. So if you want to take it away here with the Arthur Grant sighting.
1934. Okay, so on the 5th of January 1934, a motorcyclist, Arthur Grant, claimed to have nearly hit the creature while approaching Abrachain.
Abriacan, I'd say.
Abriacan. Mm-hmm. Abrachain is actually a chain of fast food place. Taco Fry. Near the northeastern end of the loch at about 1 a.m. on a moonlit night. So just picture that, the rays of the moon dancing elegantly off the moors. Lo and behold,
you sound like a lad that's trying to get in a chick's pants at the end of the night or something. You know, you're like, look over the water.
Wow. Watch how the moonlight cascades amongst the tide. You know the tide is coming in. Would you like to partake in a skinny dip?
Have you ever done skinny dipping? Probably, right? Yeah, degenerate.
Yeah, I've done it with a sausage creed people.
Oh, of course you have. Yeah.
We all got hammered at Carriclow. Did that once. Then actually in Tremor, I was with my wife before she was my wife, I think. Yeah, and a friend of hers.
What made her your wife?
And as soon as I saw the moonlight, just nicely cupping the curves of her bodacious body. I'd be prone to that now. But it's always under shadow of darkness. my little frizzy Mickey with
the midnight creeper.
No, like, you know,
the
last thing I'd be doing is trying to get laid doing it. When I was in Tremor, I was looking up and I was lying on my back and just seeing like multiples of all the stars that were up there. And then a pair of young lads tried to rob us.
Did they?
Didn't get there in time. And then they only must have been about 15 or 16. And the young one was like, is the girl with one of ye, is he? And I was like, yeah, she's my future wife, you little pissant.
Do you not see how the moon is cascading over her bosom?
Good.
Her bountiful bosom.
Woman. She comes out of the sea like some sort of some sort of sea nymph.
The Japanese salamander. So he wanted to rob you. Okay, fair play to him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this man is something similar. He's like on his motorbike. The just the open sky ahead of him. You know, the moonlight cascading on the curvaceous moors.
Head out on the highway.
Damn. Ran to this world. So according to Grant, the beast passing by, it has a small head attached to a long neck. The creature saw him and crossed the road back to the loch. Grant, who was a veterinary student, described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. He said he dismounted and followed it to the loch, but saw only ripples.
So I did a little sketch, Eamon.
He did, yeah. Looks like what you'd expect.
Easily Googleable, folks. A sketch by Mr. A. Grant. The reason I say easily Googleable is because I'll forget to put it in the episode. So I'll just tell you now. If you want to see that, check it out on Google. It looks like a plesiosaur, Eamon, yeah?
Yeah, he was a veterinary student.
Expert in plesiosaurs.
Not an art student by the looks of this. But it's a fairly, what would you say? Would you say, what age would you have to be to draw? 10 to 12? Would that be a fair age when you could draw something like this?
Oh yeah, but your artistic sort of peak happens around then, and you either get better or you just stay the same.
He's one of the lads who...
But like, I'd probably draw a plesiosaur like that. if someone asked me to sketch it, like,
Yeah, but it'd be signed by Robert.
I know,
It'd be like a fucking Picasso.
But I just try out something like that and go, there you are.
It captures it pretty well.
It's got nice hind legs by the looks of it. Flippers at the front, perhaps. Interesting monster.
Looks like it has a few toes, kind of like a Simpsons back leg.
It does have a Simpsons back leg.
It's like the antis that have the hair.
It's a bit like a Bulbasaur leg.
To say. Grant produced a sketch of the creature that we've just been admonishing there. That was examined by zoologist Maurice Burton, who stated it was consistent with the appearance and behaviour of an otter.
Weird looking otter now, to be fair to
a giant otter. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Grant, it has been suggested that this was a faulty observation due to the poor light conditions. Paleontologist Darren Naish has suggested that Grant may have either seen an otter or a seal and has exaggerated his sighting over time.
I don't know, he's a vet, he's a trainee vet.
I think it would be very hard to confuse an otter for the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, I think so.
Like how big, what's the biggest otter? Yeah. Like you would sooner think that was a cat or a seal. Seals can be pretty big.
Seals can be big.
But to be fair,
but not Loch Ness monster big.
I think, once again, the Mick West of the world. The hubris of man.
Darren Naish has showed up talking shit before in our episodes anyway. He's he might have even been in episode number 1, Darren Naish.
Is he just part of the low-hanging fruit boys?
He's one of them.
Those lads who they come up with the most obvious thing that's so obvious that it couldn't be right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as we'll see with Loch Ness here, a lot of them are obvious hoaxes and proven hoaxes, which is actually quite unusual for the cryptozoology circles, because what I'll say is, yeah, right there.
That's gone down wrong. I was trying to use my professional legendary broadcast. You can hear it there. It's gone into the lungs. I've got liquid on the lungs, lads. Help me, Jesus.
Trying to squeeze the coffee out of your lungs. No, I think I think rarely with cryptids you will have so many disproven hoaxes, because even, let's be honest, when you're talking about Bigfoot, like Patterson Gimlin film hasn't definitively been proven a hoax, whereas a lot of these have been. So that's a bit of a spoiler alert. But the first one we're going to talk about here is, well, not the first one, but let's talk about the most famous Loch Ness sighting, and this is the first photographic evidence of the creature too, and this is what is known as the surgeon's photograph. There's actually, as well, I've supplied her because I'm an expert note person,
legendary broadcaster,
the zoomed out full shot.
Yeah.
So now we're all familiar with the zoomed in close
supplied by Superstock.
Superstock.
Oh, very good.
So what you reckon when you look at the full picture? What does that tell you? I think, to me now, that looks too small. When I look at the zoomed out picture, I'm like, that doesn't look like a plesiosaur to me.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we covered in the Champy episode that a family had taken a picture and it wasn't hoax, it was just they had seen this. But it turned out to be like a trunk of a tree with a branch coming off it, which this looks quite similar.
Right.
But again, I would never have thought that before we did that episode.
So this is worth noting here about the Loch Ness Monster in general. This is something that maybe people don't really realise. But these photos weren't actually debunked until 1993. And they were taken...
So 60 years later, wow.
Basically, for 60 years, people were like, that's the photographic evidence of Loch Ness Monster. And people either believed it or disbelieved it, right?
Right.
And for context as well, Patterson Gimlin film isn't 60 years old yet.
No.
So it's coming close.
The 70s, isn't it?
No, it was the 60s. Coming close, very close. But so basically what I'm saying here is that a lot of people were like, this was the gold standard here. This Loch Ness picture was like, yep, this is definitive proof, which is funny because when you look at the picture, you're like, yeah, it's a bit crap, let's be honest about it. But I actually remember parts of this story, and we'll get to them now. Right. But the surgeon's photograph is reportedly the first picture of the creature's head and neck, and this was supposedly taken by a man named Robert Kenneth Wilson, who was a London gynecologist, would you believe? Seen plenty of fucking sea serpents in his time, I'd say.
A few of us were about to go on that.
So it was published in the Daily Mail. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Daily Mail actually birthed one of the main Loch Ness sightings back in 21st of April 1934. Wilson's refusal to have his name associated to it, or with the picture rather, made it be known as the surgeon's photograph. So, according to Wilson, he was looking at the loch when he saw this monster. He grabbed his camera and snapped 4 photos. Only 2 exposures came out early. The first reportedly shows a small head and back, and the second shows a similar head in a diving position. The first photo became well known, and the second attracted little publicity because of its blurriness, so whatever about that. So let's debunk the funk. Let's take a look here at the crack.
Get your funky debunk.
So the photo scale was controversial, which we can kind of see there, Eamon, when we're looking at it.
That makes sense.
It's often shown cropped, which makes the creature look larger. And the uncropped shows the loch at the other end of the photo, and the creature's kind of more in the center. And the ripples around it were smaller, which would imply that it was a smaller creature. Analysis of the original image fostered further doubt. In 1993, the makers of the Discovery Communications documentary Loch Ness Discovered analysed the uncropped image and found a white object visible in every version of the photo, implying that it was on the negative of the photo. It was believed to be the cause of the ripples, as if the object was being towed, although the possibility of a blemish on the negative could not be ruled out. An analysis of the full photo indicated that the object was small and it was about 2 to 3 foot long. So since 1994, most agreed that the photo was an elaborate hoax. It had been described as a fake in the 7th of December 1975 Sunday Telegraph article that fell into obscurity. Details of how the photo was taken were published in the 1999 book Nessie, the surgeon's photograph exposed, which contains a facsimile of the 1975 Sunday Telegraph article. The creature was reportedly a toy submarine built by Christian Sparling, the son-in-law of a man named Marmaduke Wetherill. Sparling admitted the photograph was a hoax in 1991. So basically, the interesting part about it, and we have it a little bit further down, but we'll talk about it now, is that they actually shit their pants when they were doing this hoax, because there was a water bailiff, they're called, which I didn't realise that was the name of them, but basically they're the police of the water. And they seen a water bailiff coming when they were trying out this hoax.
Oh, and they got the fear.
So, no, what they did was they actually sank the Loch Ness dummy.
Right.
So that's somewhere in the lake still. It was never retrieved.
Oh, okay. But this was also a small dummy?
Yeah, tiny little dummy. Right. So it was about 2 to 3 foot long. And we'll talk about in details a little bit later about how it was made up. But it just appears that this one was just a straight up hoax. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about the misadventures of none other than Marmaduke Wetherill here. So in the 30s, Marmaduke went to Loch Ness to look for this monster. Wetherill claimed to have found footprints, but when the casts of these footprints were sent to scientists for analysis, it turned out to be from a hippo. Right. A prankster had used a hippopotamus foot umbrella stand to do these tracks along the lake. So, as a result, Wetherill was publicly ridiculed by his employer, the Daily Mail. So, to get revenge, he perpetrated the hoax, the surgeon's photograph. This was all on him. And him and his son Ian, who bought the material for the fake and took the photos, his son-in-law Christian Sparling, who was a sculpture specialist, and Maurice Chambers, an insurance agent, taking a picture of a toy submarine made of plastic, wood, and passing it off as the monster. So Chambers gave the photographic plates to Surgeon Robert Kenneth Wilson, who was a friend of his, and he also enjoyed a good practical joke. They had the plates developed and sold the first photo to the Daily Mail, and the Mail would then announce that they had these pictures, and it was described as a hoax as early as 1975, but it wasn't common knowledge until 1994.
So how, it didn't say how much they sold the plates for or anything to the Daily Mail? Because back in the time...
A lot, probably.
Yeah.
It probably would have been a good sum. I mean, even nowadays, I think people don't really realise that, but like publications now will still pay you for video or like a picture of something if it went down. But I think what's interesting here about this is, like, for one, no one realised this was debunked for so long.
Yeah.
I remember when this happened. I don't know if you do.
When it was debunked?
Yeah, in 1994. I was like 6 or 7. I remember newspaper articles my dad would have had and stuff about that because he would have been interested.
Yeah.
And I remember stuff on the news, and it might have even been that. But if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but at the time in little old 1994, this might have been front page news, the debunking of it.
Yeah, certainly if it's a slow week, it'd make the front. Yeah.
If not, it was in the side panel or something like that, I think, on the front page.
What would your dad have been reading paper-wise? Was he
Red top shite.
Oh, right. It wasn't like the broadsheet. But I'd say even the broadsheet, while it wouldn't take the front page, you would find it. It's a fun story. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's an interesting one.
So, but it's fascinating because it gives you a look into like that there was a period of time where there was this piece of media, and I suppose Patterson Gimlin film is very similar, where people think like they're not sure where to go on it, you know? Because I mean, even that Loch Ness picture, right? It's shit, right? As a kid, when I seen it, I even thought, I was like, this is a bit shit. But it does look unusual, you know?
Yeah. No, it's certainly interesting enough to like, do you know what I mean? When you see it, you go, yeah, that looks odd. I think the thing about these, like when you're a kid, as we've talked about before, you have much more time to like ruminate over these things. But when you're an adult, it's just like, oh, is it? Yeah. Oh, it's still there. It's not there. It's a hoax, is it? Like even with the aliens and stuff that's happening, you don't really have time unless you're totally invested in that and maybe financially.
Well, that could be your main interest even, yeah.
Well, that's it. But if you're financially involved with it, but otherwise it's like, well, I have to make dinner. I got to make the kids. Like your brain just can't, like, I can't care about this too much.
That said, you know, there's people out there who devote their life.
That's what I mean. Yeah, there are people
could even
who
be listening to this episode, you know, that are people that literally go to
and they might, I wonder, do they have an alternate take on this? So even though we're getting this, they're like, well, actually, that's the wrong story.
I say so.
You know, I'm really looking forward to if we wind up passing by that guy who just sits there. I would like to talk to him for a while and see, just get some stories, because I'd say he's got some wild ones. Because the other thing that you said about this, and the Loch Ness monster and a lot of sort of sea serpents do look like this when a whale in mating season goes up to the water and the penis goes out of the water, silhouetted, it looks quite like a plesiosaurus.
Whale's Mickey.
Yeah, Whale's Mickey.
Whale's Mickey or dinosaur, you decide.
Yeah, maybe. Either way, we're in trouble. But even that, if that had been a whale in the loch, that would have been really interesting. Obviously, it's not the case, but
that's the thing. Like that, like I think the compelling part for me, at least, and I think it's what got me into cryptozoology as a kid, was the possibility of something that shouldn't be there being there in any area, wherever it is. Like it's the mystique, it's the intrigue, it's the unusualness of the whole thing. It's like, what the fuck is actually in the lake? If everyone's
there must be some, and again, it could be like just a big sturgeon. Like the thing is, because when we talked about the black demon before, the megalodon in Mexico, but there is a whale shark that they would have found where they're like, this sort of makes
checks
sense.
out. So William Fraser as well had another sighting. This was in 1938. This one's interesting because it didn't come to light until well later. But this is the 15th of August 1938. This is William Fraser. He was the chief constable of Inverness Shire. He wrote a letter that the monster existed beyond doubt, and expressed concern about a hunting party that had arrived with a custom-made harpoon gun, determined to catch the monster dead or alive. He believed his power to protect the monster from the hunters was very doubtful. But that's just a fascinating little thing there, where it was a little letter that was written to someone, where it's just like an honest little letter that someone wrote, where they're like, I think there's a monster in there, and I think that these people that are rocking up here are going to cause trouble.
We shouldn't be trying to kill the monster. Like, if it is there, that's the wrong thing to do, which I would agree with him.
It's quite cool. So, Eamon, we're going to one, and I want you to talk about this one a bit. I don't know if you'll remember it, but this was one that we would have watched, I believe, back in the day. And the link is there if you want to click on it. You might have to turn down the audio on your phone. It's in the title there, Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster footage.
Okay, let me take a quick look.
Do you see where I said there, new text, same old sightings?
Yeah.
Just there, that one there. If you click on that and you look at the site.
It's not ringing any bells for me. I'm looking at it.
Watch the actual sighting though.
Okay.
And see what you think.
How long is this clip?
You can go in about a minute in, I think, and it'll actually play it.
On a small bit of audio.
Because I can't.
The lads can see it.
No, it's fine because I'll do all that in edit and turn it down, and I'll sort that out in the edit and after the fact. But
oh yeah,
do you remember that?
There's something moving and it's big.
Yeah.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do now. Actually, it's funny.
This was from 2007, so you and I were like, this was prime.
This is when we were into
This was prime.
It's funny that the man who's filming it looks like he's from 1967. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's definitely, whether it's a hoax or not, there's definitely something big moving around there. So
yeah, do you want to talk about it a bit?
I would love nothing more. On the 26th of May 2007, 55-year-old laboratory technician Gordon Holmes videotaped what he said was this jet black thing about 14 meters, that'll be 46 feet long, moving fairly fast in the water, which again, yeah, it's totally what it looks like on the video. Loch Ness monster watchers described it as among the best footage ever seen of any footage in the world. BBC Scotland broadcasted the video on the 29th of May 2007. STV News North Tonight aired it on the 28th of May and interviewed Holmes. Adrian Shine, a marine biologist at the Loch Ness 2000 Centre in Drumnadrochit.
See you there, son.
Yeah, we'll be there. Get ready. There's going to be 3 Loch Ness monsters in that lake when we get in.
The moonlight cascading over your bosom.
The moonlight dancing just right off the small of her back. So he suggested that the footage was an otter, a seal, or a water bird. So another boring prick coming up with
I'll nonsense. See you in Drumnadrochit, brother.
But you'll never see anything else again. Will I go into the sonar sightings?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, so there was a sonar sighting, which kind of ties it. Well, first off, I suppose before we go on to the sonar sighting, what did you think of that footage?
Yeah, like
pretty decent, right? Not bad.
Pretty good.
Interesting.
It looks like something moving fast. It looks, again, hard to know because like you're just seeing a second of it, but it looks big. Like when I've seen seals in the water and they don't. No. It doesn't move like that. The water doesn't break like that. Funnily enough, during COVID, I used to go out for walks to Ferry Carrig to the castle, and there was one day I was out there, stuff you never would have seen, but we were all had so much downtime then. And I saw a seal catch a fish in the river and then fight 3 seagulls for it, because the seal would have to try to come out of the water to eat the fish. Then the seagulls would attack the seal to try to get the fish. But again, when you see the seals can't. I've seen dozens of seals in my life. I've never seen it. I am actually a seal expert. Wexford's foremost seal expert. Kiss from a rose.
Yeah, for people that are wondering, the video is titled Gordon Holmes Loch Ness. If you just type that in, it'll bring it up for you. It does look interesting. That one is, on the right path to being sort of credible, you would say. So there was a sonar sighting in here, which we have the picture again. I'll try and stick it in. If I fail, I'll try not to, folks. Loch Ness sonar sighting on Google is your best friend.
Check it out.
First off, what do you think of this image?
I will be honest with you. I am not sure what I'm looking at here. I guess it's that bulky line in the middle.
Yeah. It's that like kind of the brighter green strip there. It does look, well, it's a sonar, right? So it is picking up some kind of solid body there, right?
Yeah.
And it does look like something with a long neck and I suppose a bit of a wider body, just a little bit. But anyway, if you want to tell them about this and what the story is.
So Marcus Atkinson's grainy shot, which shows a long 5-foot wide serpent-like feature, was taken from a recording 75 feet down in the loch at Urquhart Bay. It was taken from his sonar fish finder device, which records the width of objects directly below his tourist boat. Marcus, who's 43 from Fort Augustus in Inverness-shire, said, "I was dropping customers at Urquhart Castle." I'm definitely not saying that right. "And as I moved out into the water, I looked at this sonar. I saw this image. The object got bigger and bigger, and I took a picture of it with my mobile phone. I was in shock as it looked like a big serpent."
Taking pictures of your serpent with your phone by a dirty dog.
When was this again? This was in...
It was, it would have been in around
that time.
Mickey Pick's time.
Just when it would come into prominence.
Yeah.
What did lads be sending? Just pictures of their own mate? You just have to hand draw a picture of your own Mickey and post it to whoever you were dirty lettering?
Oh, when you were dirty lettering?
Back when the dirty lettering was popular.
I'd say, actually, no joke, if we're talking about that, I'd say there were people that literally sent as detailed as possible a drawing of their Mickey.
Sure, we were only talking about James Joyce and his big fart fetish.
Yeah, you were telling me this. I didn't realize that James Joyce.
So he's legit like one of the most lauded writers in all of literary
Ulysses
history.
and all that jazz, you know.
He was living in Paris and he used to write sexy letters back to his wife. And it would just be like, I remember one, and this is literal, I think this is verbatim because I've said this many times. He said his letter began, "To my dearest, blah, blah, whatever," and this is where it gets verbatim. He goes, "You had an arse full of farts that night, and I fucked them all out of you." And he has like the next part, which I can't remember fully. It's like, "Loud ones, squeaky ones, little fussy fellows." It's something like that. So yeah, he was, and like think about, I don't know, I never saw her letters going back to him, but I'd say a few of them just went,
"That's nice, James."
I'd say, "Yeah, will you fucking cop on to yourself, Jim? Like, stop it."
That's nice, James. Anyway. That's a good thought.
Love to you and the family, children doing well.
Is there anyone getting off on their farts being fucked out with their arse?
James Joyce is getting off on the farts being fucked out of your arse. Like he was just into queefing, I suppose.
He implicitly stated
he does say farts, but I think the technology wasn't there to differentiate between arse farts and fatty farts.
I kind of find it funny how like James Joyce, who was like a literary titan, doesn't know the difference between a fatty fart and an arse fart.
No one did.
Idiot.
Everyone just thought they were arse farts back then. We didn't discover the queef until the 1980s.
Dumb idiots. Sure. I'd say he probably did send a few penis sketches.
Yeah, I just drew a picture of his own. He was filth.
Do you remember pen pals? Do you ever have a pen pal?
When I was in like primary school, I had an American pen pal, and I think we sent a few pictures of our dicks to each other. No. Mine looks like this.
He was 40, I was 12.
Yeah, we were still friends. But no, it was very like, I like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Was it a lad or
it was a guy, I think.
All right.
I was a gay kid. What he's saying.
You had an arse full of farts.
You had an arse full of farts that night. He had like an American name.
I don't know whether
Stone Griffin or something like
Logan.
that. Stone Griffin.
Logan Stone.
Cole Shafley.
Cold Stone Steve Austin.
Stone Cold.
I had I was only interested in writing to women.
When you were a small child?
I'm not writing, a lad. What's he got to say to me that's interesting?
Well, when you're a child, probably quite a bit. He's like, "Do you like G.I. Joe?" Who was saying, "Do you like G.I. Joe?"
Fuck all that. Right to women.
So what age were you when you had your pen pal?
About 10, 11.
10, 11, you're sort of...
Butsy.
Sexual bloom. You start to reach pubescence.
I was just like, I'm not interested in... No, I wouldn't be bothered writing lads at that age. Why would I be...
Because you're...
How did you acquire this pen pal, by the way?
I think that...
did you liaise with James Saville?
Yeah. Jim, I really want a pen pal.
I fixed it.
No, our school just...
school.
Yeah, so it's done 100 kids. There was a great one where we were trying to find out about soaps. So as like children, we couldn't have been... When do you start primary school? 5? 4 or 5?
Yeah, 5. 4.
So we couldn't have been older than 6 then, right?
No.
And we were trying to find out what soaps use whale blubber. Right?
Oh,
and so we were going through, and you get letters every now and then, and the teacher would be like, "We got another letter, this Imperial leather," you know, whoever we're going to. And I remember being a kid.
Protestant activities.
Protestants, primary schools. Yous were all like, "Does anybody have soap?" We were right to the manufacturer.
Right to Imperial leather.
Yous were like, "We're queer and dirty." And famine and all.
I had one of the boys make all the cleaners go on strike because he shit on the toilet. And then you were like writing to...
I was writing to find out if the soap manufacturers were cruel to animals. But we got it so like... And every now and then you just get a letter back. So like, we got a letter from a new soap company. And all the kids would be like, "Ooh." And they were all like, "We don't use whale. That's fucking barbaric," and shit like that. And then finally we got one. And I was like... We do use whale, and all the kids just went, "Yeah!" yay! And then the teacher went, no children, that's bad. So, yeah! In like this sort of Mexican wave. But it was a Protestant wave. And
the Protestant school were up to all sorts of.
Protestant school was class.
I can only imagine now what our English listeners were up to when they were children. God only
just
knows.
writing to
putting,
links and all.
Putting Irish lads on a spit.
Do you actually bottle Africa?
Putting Irish lads on a spit and then cutting lumps off their arse and feeding themselves off it and all that.
Just cannibalising the Irish.
I'd say so.
I wouldn't say they'd ingest something as poorly as a Catholic. I don't think they'd be interested in that.
No, really, it's just funny, like, because it was literally the opposites where, you know, you were writing into soap companies and literally no word of a lie. A lad in my class made all the cleaners in the school go on strike because he did a shit that bad all over the toilet.
Now, to be fair, we did have the occasional dirty strike, dirty protest down at the...
He came out laughing as well, which is the best
really?
part. He came out of the toilet laughing.
Do you reckon he's one of those lads that never wiped their arse that we talked about in the mini-fuzz?
Yeah, absolutely. But he came out like, he's just like giggling to himself walking out of the toilet.
I've destroyed the bathroom.
And it was like bad.
And the cleaners went on strike.
They were just like, we're not doing it. The down tools, they were like just not having it.
Right.
So it was bad.
Did his parents have to do it? Like,
I don't know. We went into tech, like he told us that he was like, go and have a look at that instead of place. And it was like a horizontal Mr. Hanky all over the side of the toilet bowl and all the back of the bowl.
What age were you at the time?
Probably like 9 or 10, something like that, I think.
Good Lord.
Yeah, no, it was fun. But that was kind of the difference there between us.
Yeah, well, by the time we were 9 or 10, we were no longer writing to soap companies anymore.
You've gotten out of it.
No, we were actually getting educated. We were trying to get for real education down to life. So he says, you can't fake a sonar image, and I've never seen anything like this on the fish finder.
Adult fish finder. Get that into this on Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. I was watching the documentary on the Ashley Madison. Is that the cheating website? It's a good documentary. It's fun. Yeah, there's one lad. His wife caught him and he was like, sure, I only put in a profile. It was just a moment of madness. I never did it. And as it turned out, the fiend had been out there. He had been trying to get off with her, pursuing her friends and all. He was up to all sorts.
Madman.
Big dirty den.
Lunatic.
Bad man. I've shown it to the other experienced skippers and none of us know what it is. The picture won Marcus a prize, Best Nessie Sighting of the Year, in a competition run by bookmakers William Hill. That's interesting. Excited Loch Ness Monster experts have ruled out the sighting being a fish, seal or wood debris. Monster hunter Steve Feltham, who's 49, said, "It can't be a fish because you just wouldn't find them in water 75 feet down. It's very exciting and the best evidence we've had in donkey's years. It's images like this that will keep me going with my hunt for the next 20 years.
He doesn't need much by...
No, he doesn't need much. But that's the happiest people don't.
That's what you want.
The happiest people don't.
Give me a little bit of a fucking the crest of a wave on the moonlit night. And that's it.
The crest, the moonlight bouncing off the crest of my wife's lower back. Now, Dr. Simon Boxall from the National Oceanography Centre in Southampton, Hampshire, has said the image shows a bloom of algae and zooplankton that would exist on what would be a thermocline.
Classic.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Thermocline.
As you do.
Yeah.
The way the moonlight dances on your thermocline.
Oh, my thermocline.
I want to see your algae bloom.
I want to be wrapped in the thermocline, surrounding me in and around my mouth as the moonlight pours from my chin. Zooplankton.
Shouts out zooplankton.
Shouts out zooplankton. Zooplankton live off this algae and reflect sound signals from echo sounders and fish finders very well. So that's that fucked.
No, I'm not sold on that, Simon. I think you're talking about your fucking hole.
It does kind of look like a load of clumps of plankton together though on the sonar.
Not fair.
I'm not saying I believe it.
Sonar, not.
I know that Imperial Leather hunts whales for blubber.
They do. Big Imperial
Actually,
Leather.
we just have to say I don't actually think they do anymore. We might get in trouble for that, do we?
Imperial Leather probably still do. As a matter of fact, I say Captain Ahab is the fucking owner of Imperial Leather.
They're still chasing the white whale.
If your company's called Imperial Leather, you're probably up to something.
Well, at
It's
least
literally
I suppose
two
it's
of
the
the
least
wrong-
damage is
In like in this day and age, Imperial Leather is probably one of the most out of date names you could possibly ever have. Up there with like the Jimmy Savile podcast.
they should just change it to socialist pleather or something.
Imperial. No
Yeah.
one wants imperialism.
Leather.
Leather's got fake leather
It's
now.
not going to
So.
sell well. I'm curious to see how they do actually then. I'd love to see as time goes on and we
They
become
will
more
pivot because
civilized.
we were talking about AI and minifuzz.
Yeah, yeah.
There's going to be a pivot from
What
Imperial
would you
Leather.
change Imperial's name to? Imperial
No, I
Leather's
think
name?
I'd keep the name Imperial Leather, but I'd pivot what we are as a company. Do you know, our future, our vision. Well, what I do all that bollocks that all the greenwashing companies are doing now, like we offset our carbon by fucking, some wank.
We have all these EVs and now we just have small children dying of cobalt.
Oh no, I
inhalation.
do actually think that offsetting is good. By the way, I'm being facetious, but
That's the whole podcast. Though.
yeah, but it is kind of funny though because it is a way to just kind of absolve yourself of everything.
Of everything.
It's like, yeah, our company practices child slavery, but we're carbon neutral, so it's all good.
We're saving the earth, but fuck the people who live on it. Like, but the other side as well is, you'd love a company and they were just like, listen lads, we have X amount of shareholders and our job is to make them money and we don't give a fuck how we do it.
Yeah.
So fuck you, fuck everything you want to us about, off we go.
This iPad's cool, right, bitches? Yeah, well, guess what? 3 children died making this shit.
Yeah, I wonder if
Enjoy
you could just check your technology. Like in this room, there's the
No one
ghouls
cared,
of
though.
children. No one does care.
No one cares.
Well, no one, like...
Even if you blatantly said it to people, they wouldn't care.
But it's because, again...
There's a disconnect.
The degrees of separation. Whereas if there was a child dying outside, you'd try to save it.
We're that privileged, like, that we would almost think that it's like some kind of fantastical scenario that someone would die making a phone. You'd be like, oh, that's Final Fantasy 17, is it? You're telling me the story of there where a child dies making a phone?
It's funny because I was
Like
even... Like, I was in the Sector 6 slums this morning and I was like... This is just like the third world, but with like really pretty white people. Oh Jesus!
Well,
when you say it like that,
I'm telling you, man. So anyway, look, we're getting on to another sort of famous mainstay. This is one of the big sightings again. It's on YouTube, and you might remember this one as well. You can take a look there if you like to rejig the memory. This is the Loch Ness monster or what? You decide.
What is it like?
He uploaded this himself. This was in 2013.
Okay.
Again, you might remember it. Say what you see, folks. What you think yourself now when you're watching that now? Do you think
pretty interesting? Yeah. There's clearly, unless it's some sort of a weird singular wave, which I've never seen before.
Right.
You're
thinking that's interesting, yeah? Good.
That's pretty interesting, yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Something's going on there.
So that's the David Elder video, folks. You can find it on his own YouTube account. He just has a regular ass YouTube. He just threw it up on there. So he presented this video 27th of August 2013 in the Loch. According to Dave, the wave was produced by a 4.5 meter solid black object just under the surface of the water. Elder, who is 50 at the time of this, is from East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire. He was taking a picture of a swan at the Fort Augustus Pier on the southwestern end of the loch. When he captured the movement, he said, the water was very still at the time and there were no ripples coming off the wave and no other activity on the water. Yeah. However, stupid YouTube commenters, not any of our regular listeners, we love you, but sometimes stupid people come in and say dumb shit. What I'm going to say is, it's already been debunked. Right. So the top comment on his video is quite common on that part of the loch. It's where the river and canal join the loch and create an interference wave.
Okay.
I've seen lots of these things on the loch, but this one is explainable, but still interesting. Mm-hmm. So it's the way the waves intermingle and connect. And intersect and
as the moonlight dances upon the rippling,
penetrate each other.
It's waves scissors each other on the
basically
loch.
That's what it is. It's waves scissoring on the loch. So unfortunately that one was debunked. And a little quick one up there at the end
that's
of
really
our
cool looking, yeah.
At the end of our evidence is the Apple Maps 2014 pic. That one well first off, I suppose, what do you think of the picture? Cool, right?
Yeah, it kind of just looks like a big, like it looks
big
like
fish.
A whale or a big fish.
It looks like the Resident Evil 4 fish, actually.
The catfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's even better than the Loch Ness Monster.
It's a great image if people want to check it out. Apple Maps 2014 pic. However, the problem with this is, and this is me being a dinosaur nerd again.
Yeah.
This image would actually have it at being about 98 feet long, which would be about 40 foot bigger than the largest.
Do you think that maybe what people have been seeing is some kind of whale then? Because that looks like and again, I'm not saying this is real, but that does look like a whale that's coming up from the depths.
Yeah, but
I don't know how it would get in there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Maybe it just fell from a cloud one day.
There ain't no whales in lakes, right? That's what I would think.
Except for one.
Because
I think with stuff like this, right, there's obviously folklore and things like that. But usually there's some sort of truth behind this. And the truth might be it's a tree trunk with a thing coming out of it that people have misidentified. But something that keeps coming up like this, whether it is like a giant catfish or a sturgeon or something like that, you would think that there is maybe something in there that people are seeing.
Yeah, so that's kind of the goal of next week's episode will be, and I was going to put it in this episode, but there is that much kind of possibility and possible suggestions to what it is or what it could be that it deserves its own episode. So that's mainly the goal of next week, is to try and actually establish like, well, okay, we have all the evidence now, which by the way hasn't been great. We have most of the evidence now that we've talked about. What could it be? Every single piece of evidence there, I think bar one, was a hoax or a misidentification.
Yes, which is the one that you're...
That was the one, the kind of... not the intersecting wave, the one before that we watched. That one
where you saw the kind of big thing on
that
the
was
water
kind
moving
of
fast. Yeah. But even the last one, like, what do you think that? Do you think that's just a weird wave formation that looks like a whale?
I just think that,
because you'd imagine Apple aren't photoshopping.
It's like a wake of a whale. Like, it's probably some kind of weird wake of a boat.
Something's just gone by.
And it just looks weird, maybe.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, and we're just identifying it as something we associate.
But like, it's just it's even too big. Like, again, and we'll talk about it next week, but like a plesiosaur is one of the least likely things that the Loch Ness Monster could be.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that we will say.
But what if it is a 98-foot plesiosaur? That's class.
Oh, that is class.
That's class, because now that's the thing from
class.
Jurassic World. That's class, like.
But that'd be a mosasaur, but that would be super class.
Objectively pretty cool, whether it's a plesiosaur or a mosasaur.
No, it's like, look, I mean, the position that I've kind of, after doing these notes and kind of looking into it more than I have done or had done up to a point, it does seem like there was a bit of a fever that birthed a bunch of fakes.
Yeah.
But then it also seems like at the same time that the folklore and all the other... Now, keep in mind, we're only going over like the main sightings that gain traction.
Because loads of people would...
we're not
every
going
year
over,
there's dozens of sightings.
Yeah, we're not going over any of the sort of like Sasquatch Chronicles style kind of like... I was out and I seen a creature on the lake, the moonlight, and the way they intertwined.
Cascaded off the slender
two Loch Ness monsters kissing in the night.
They made a heart with their elongated necks.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
No, we're just going over some of the big... Yeah, as we always do in this podcast, we don't often get into the minutiae because we would have to just have a podcast about one thing. This is about a bit of everything.
Sasquatch Chronicles exists. I'm sure there's a Loch Ness Chronicles. If there isn't, there should be.
Yeah, it's just, I guess with Loch Ness Chronicles, it's a lake. It's much harder. Yeah, it's like, I was standing there and I saw a weird thing. And whereas with Sasquatch, you're like, I was in the forest.
Yeah.
Something was throwing stones at me. Yeah. I heard the whooping.
Well, Sasquatch is infinitely more interesting simply because it ties into so many other, like, and we've discovered that over the years with the podcast where it's like, there's folklore, there's so much folklore from so many cultures and all the tie-in with wild men and all. So it's just, Sasquatch is like multi-layered, whereas Loch Ness Monster is like, here's a lake, there's something in the lake.
Pretty much.
What do you think? What do you think based on that evidence that we've seen? It's like all of that is mainly hoaxes.
Yeah, but I would say there probably is genuine big fish in there that people misconstrue for the Loch Ness Monster. Like, you know, like we've seen, I think it was Ogopogo, they were like, there's giant sturgeon in here or catfish. There's fish in the loch anyway, So I'm assuming, and it's what, like, it's a mile deep, is it? Or not a mile deep? It's
a mile wide.
Mile wide, 23
super
something.
Deep.
Yeah, so
it's like was it 758 fathoms or something crazy?
Right.
I don't know.
Couldn't fathom it.
I can't remember.
But yeah,
it's super deep.
I'm sure there's big fish in there that maybe breach the surface from time to time.
One of the most unique aspects of Loch Ness is its depth.
Yeah.
That is one of the most unique parts.
So do people think,
geologically,
and they probably haven't, like, is there any way of having tunnels out to sea, or is that just not a thing at all? Or
but it's a river, so systems? Like
it has to get out.
It goes down to Inverness, which is where it will be.
So the Loch Ness, so it's not actually
that is
a
the
lake,
mouth
if
of
you
the
like.
Ness. No, I think it flows out. Like,
okay,
I think it does.
It's not like a self-contained.
No, I
like
don't
they
think
say.
so. I think it flows
well,
out.
in that case, then
I think it does.
But sure, you could have things that were only
We'll
there for
out
a
soon.
transient period of time that maybe are big and go back to the sea.
They come into later young. There you go. No, I actually don't know whether I won't definitively say whether, but I'm fairly sure Inverness, we talked about it in the last episode, mouth of the Ness.
Yeah.
I think a river runs the whole way.
That cascade recently laid young.
Yeah, maybe it's like a little fishery kind of.
Yeah, like I feel like there again. It's probably something very normal.
Weird. Yeah, there's something weird that's like normal yet weird. So yeah, maybe a big Balix of a sturgeon. Maybe just
because you talked about that dude on Deep
Jeremy Wade,
River Monsters or whatever.
We're going to watch his shit over there right away.
Yeah.
No, I think very interesting and compelling. I like the legend is great. I think all these lakes, the fact that there could be something mysterious in the depths is very intriguing. For me, the most fascinating thing now is that hoax Loch Ness dummy is somewhere in the lake. Like,
yeah, well, wouldn't that be a trip to like be? Do you ever see that thing?
I'd be trying to get that. Like,
do you ever see the thing in Poland where someone's made they've sculpted like this really gnarly looking shark, like it's really cartoonish with giant teeth, but it's in the bottom of a lake in, I think it's Poland. I want to say it's somewhere in Eastern Europe, I believe. But imagine you're diving down there and you've never seen it before, and then you just like into the visibility comes this like terrifying looking shark, which is obviously not real, but you'd fucking shit yourself.
I'm more surprised that there hasn't been a really good hoax in recent years. That's what I'm actually more surprised at, because I think it'd be fun. Like, I'm actually not against hoaxes because I think they're fun. Yeah. So I'm actually a little bit surprised that no one has done like a really good hoax of the Loch Ness Monster.
Let's see how it goes with our hike, because if we can't hike, we're going to be at a loose end.
We'll
get all the lads together and we'll make a giant paper mache Loch Ness Monster.
I'm surprised, because it feels like it'd be ripe for hoax, and the Loch Ness Monster, I'll be quite honest with you, doing really good ones. But yeah, I think, look, from my perspective, having done the notes, I was a little bit disappointed with the lack of like really good kind of evidence of anything.
Yeah, if someone put a gun to your head, you'd be like, there's not a plesiosaurus there.
No. Well, I would just be like, there's nothing too crazy. I would be like that there's maybe some other stuff, which again we're going to talk about, and we'll rank them. And we were talking about like Aleister Crowley birthing in magical creatures and shit. We'll talk about all of that. We'll get into the fucking mad shit.
That's unfortunately going to be at the lower end.
Yeah. We'll get into the dinosaur angle, all of that jazz. But like, if you're fascinated in dinosaur cryptids, if you're listening to this and maybe it's your first time listening and you found us just because it's a Loch Ness episode maybe, and you're into dinosaur cryptids, check out Michele and Membe episode. It's number 1 on Spotify. It's our number 1 episode. And check out, it's our first one. Check out Emila and Tuca, which was the kind of the sort of triceratops like kind of creature. Check out Ogopogo is another one, but those 2 dinosaur ones are actually more fun because there's actually way more substantial stuff to them. It's still as likely as the Loch Ness Monster, but there's a lot more interesting evidence there, and they don't have that hard wall of Loch Ness for all solid, lads. That's all I'm about. It has more of an open-ended kind of, wishy-washy kind of thing to it, which makes it a lot more fun, I think. So that and many others are over on Spotify if you're watching on YouTube, because it's probably like a lot of people are going to be finding us on YouTube for the first time. and they don't know that we have 400 episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Factually, you're 400 episodes.
So it's like, and the rest, by the way, that's I think we're more closer to 5. So that's the crack. As always, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We're enjoying the video, really enjoying YouTube, enjoying doing the shorts, enjoying putting them up. It's really fun, actually. It's a whole new aspect of the pod, and as we've said before, be developing over time. And if you got anything that you'd like to say about the Loch Ness Monster today?
I like him. He's good. But also, yeah, just a big thanks to everybody who's helping support us with the Patreon and stuff. It really does help us do little extra bits and pieces, like
the whole studio, the meetup, all of that stuff. Like, we don't really pocket the Monsterfuls money.
No.
And so what we do with it is we use it to have the crack. And
go back in or grow it in some way. But we really appreciate it. And obviously, not everyone's able to support in that way. So if you're not, even if you're just leaving reviews or passing it on, sharing it around, the more people we can get the ears on, the happier we'll be.
Absolutely. I've been Rob.
I've been Eamon.
Loch Ness Monster, over and out.
Bye.